Okay, so today's lesson's about the right hand. It's about right hand technique. You know, from time to time, I get somebody saying, hey, specifically with these chords that you've given us, what are you doing with your right hand? In fact, a good buddy of mine up in the northern part of California, Tony, if you're watching, thank you so much. Tony suggested a couple Chords and Coffees ago, we did a lesson where we did some chromatic movement. This guy, if you remember that lesson, Tony had put a comment in there, hey, how are you picking that? Well, I want to talk about that because, Tony, that's a beautiful suggestion for a Chords and Coffee lesson. I do what's called hybrid picking. Well, what does that mean? That means I'm holding a pick, a flat pick, specifically, if I can get the camera to focus on it, I'm using a Dunlop Ultex 1.14. Sometimes I'll use a 1 millimeter. On a rainy day, I might use an 88. But most of the time, I like these picks that are a little bit thicker than this, or a little thicker than normal, I should say. By the way, we could do a whole Chords and Coffee on what a tremendous difference a pick makes on the tone, especially on your acoustic guitar. And if you haven't tried that, especially if you have a home recording setup, get you a bunch of picks. It'll blow your mind. A thin pick strummed on a guitar sounds amazing. Anyway, I don't want to get into the weeds on that, but that's a thing. So today we're going to talk about hybrid picking. When I am holding my pick, what I'm doing is I'm holding it in my right hand. I've got my finger crooked just a little bit, you know, just like if I were to point it and just roll it back one time. It's comfortable. None of this feels tight or tense. And I'm using my middle finger and my ring finger. Now what we're going to do, let's just get lined up here. You know what? Let's just do good old one finger A. Everybody can do this. Index finger. You're going to have an open A string, not going to play anything on the E string. So just starting from the open A, index finger is going to be on the second fret of the D, the G, and the B, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick with my pick here, the low A string, and then I'm going to pluck with my ring and my middle that are sort of glued together like in this paddle, right? And I'm plucking on the D and the G string. You got that good? Yeah, so Jordan's behind the camera there. Everybody put a comment in the comment section for how good of a job Jordan does. There you go, all right? So middle finger's gonna be on the D string, and then ring finger's gonna be on the G string, and I'm picking with my pick on that low A. Now right away you're gonna say to yourself, Nate, seems like my pick is louder than my pluck. Friend, that is a true statement. It's also part of life. And here's the deal. The EQ curve, especially on electric guitar, but even on acoustic guitar, the EQ curve, the sound, the tonal properties of your naked finger hitting that string like that is really nice. And so you kind of got to tame your pick a little bit. So bring your pick down so your pluck can come up. I don't get to say that often, but I enjoy saying it. So there's that. So when you get those kind of evened out, the next thing is, and we're going to use a different A shape, let's move this plucking around. And so what we're going to do is we're going to pick and we're going to pluck in different groups of strings, okay? These are exercises to help you get this hybrid picking. It's just part of your plan, okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our index finger, we're going to put it on the 5th fret of the B. Middle finger is going to be on the 6th fret of the G, and then ring finger is going to be on the 7th fret of the D. A is still open, not doing anything with low E. We might get a little high E here in a second because it'll sound good. Now this looks familiar to you. That's from that lesson with chromatic movement. And if you get this in your right hand, that Chords and Coffee with chromatic movement would be a great lesson to apply these right hand techniques to. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick this and I'm going to pluck the D and the G, right? And then I'm going to pluck the G and the B, and then I'm going to pluck the B and the E. And then do the low A string in between each of these. So low A, and then the first 2 sets, low A, and then the next 2 sets, low A, and then the last 2 sets, and then back down. Now, when you do that, this is a great exercise. I had a guitar teacher one time who would call these exercises Captain Kangaroo exercises, because you could watch TV and sort of mindlessly go through that. Captain Kangaroo was a show, for those of you who don't understand that reference. You can be otherwise mentally engaged in something while you're teaching your fingers to have the muscle memory of that, right? Where that's going, if you remember that specific Chords and Coffee lesson, we had a moment where there was this little melody. Something like that, right? And what happens is in order to do that, you've got to be able to keep your pick going while your little paddle guys or your fingers are sort of breaking away from each other and they're doing other little activities. And in fact, a neat little thing to do is maybe just go back to this A thing that we did just a second ago, right? So this little F chord shape that's right here. And then maybe just do your pick right here on the A string. And then I'm just going to, so I'm going to hammer on I got my index finger here on the 5th fret of the B. I'm going to hammer on with my pinky on the 7th fret of the B, while I'm keeping this rhythm going. So what am I doing right here? Well, I'm playing that A again with the pick, which is my index finger and my thumb, and then I've got my middle finger is on the G string, my ring finger is on the B string, sort of playing zone defense. These boys are playing some serious ball. And so what's going to happen is I'm going to play that melodic figure, but because of this zone defense idea, my ring finger is on the B string, so my ring finger is all that's needed to engage that little melodic figure. And in fact, it sounds real good to me to go ahead and just have the middle finger and the pick kind of instantly pluck at the same time. Again, middle finger is going to be on the D string, or excuse me, the G string, so you're going to get, and then I'm going to engage that little melodic figure there on the B. Start off with it, just that note right there. Now you might say, well, how close is your hand to the hole? How are you doing this? I'm kind of resting my hand on the bridge. My hand is resting on the bridge while my fingers are sort of in these zones here. And I think that's probably the big secret, the big takeaway, is that if you can feel like your fingers have these specific strings that they're attacking and they're plucking, if there's a melodic figure on that string, then that finger engages. If there's not, it might not do anything. It might just hover above that. So that's the first little exercise. Let's do another one. Right hand. Okay, so in that opening piece, when I did If You Could Read My Mind, the Gordon Lightfoot song, I did a lot of this little movement in thirds. And that movement in thirds works really good with hybrid picking, because you can keep some semblance of something's happening with the chord underneath while I'm playing a melody on top. Because when I'm playing that, I didn't play a chord till I got to the G, right? But you don't miss it, right? Even if you mess up. You don't miss it because it feels like there's enough harmonic content happening because you have a melody and the melody is reinforced with the harmony, in this case, harmonized in thirds, okay? So what I'm doing is, let's just make a full-blown A chord here. And if you remember, we've done several Chords and Coffee lessons on this. If you would like to revisit it. In fact, I may be able to have Jordan put in a little moment of just a screenshot of the lesson in thirds that we did. And this was way back when I was doing it at my house. But you can harmonize the major scale in thirds, right? And so you can actually play that. And it's just a fun little exercise here if we were to just do, just for right now, just for this little moment here, because I want to give you something easy to work on. Index finger, let's do it with middle finger. Let's do middle finger on the 5th fret of the high E. We're gonna skip the B. We're gonna have ring finger on the 6th fret of the G. Let's just do that. It's gonna go 5 and 6 on the E string, on the G string, and then we're going to go 4 and 4. So again, we're just, everything's on the E and the G, right? 4 and 4, and then 7 and 7. And 4 and 4 is going to be with index and middle, and then 7 and 7 is going to be with ring and pinky. Just something real simple here to give you a little exercise, because what we got to do is we got to get used to our fingers kind of spreading apart, not being this paddle, but being the old TV antenna. Get some new stations in there. And if you can do that, you can become a very dangerous person, because now all of a sudden you can do lots of different chords. I mean, anywhere where there's an open string, and then Lord have mercy, if you can get a finger down whilst doing this too. A while back I did an arrangement of Layla, and a lot of that was just holding down a bass note while I was moving around these thirds. It's a real handy exercise. So that's one more. So essentially, my middle finger is going to be on the G string, my ring finger is going to be on the high E. All right, let's do one more exercise. Right hand. Okay, so this is going to be the same general idea, but what I'm going to do different on this, you got to be, it ain't easy pouring coffee and holding guitars. What I'm going to do different on this is I'm going to show you a major scale, but instead of harmonizing in thirds, we're just going to go straight down the scale while holding a chord. Why is this helpful? Man alive, it comes up all the time. Okay, and you can change the bass note to that too. Just then when I did that, the end of Cats, the end of Memory, remember that? Anyway, it just popped in my head, that one. But it has that funky ending. Anyway, sorry, tangent. Let me get some coffee real quick. What kind of coffee y'all drinking out there? Talk to me. Got a little surprise coming up down the road regarding Chords and Coffee. Am I supposed to say that? Jordan hadn't even heard about it. He just looked at me like, what is it? I'll tell you later. Stay tuned. Anyway, so what we're going to do is index finger from the D string. Let's just go straight across, 2nd fret. All of them. Pinky's going to be on the high E of the 5th fret. Now here's what you're going to do. Essentially what's going to happen is this. Major scale. You ever heard of it? It's pretty good. So on the high E, 5th fret, 4th fret, use your ring finger right there. 2nd fret, you're already holding it down. Take a rest. And then pinky on the B string, 5th fret. And then 3rd fret. And then 2nd fret. And then now to G string. Whoops, wrong string. G string, 4th fret. And then 2nd fret. This is a great little exercise. Number one, holding that down, you'll be like, after a minute. That's good for you. Hey, listen, if while you're practicing this stuff, you ever get frustrated, just stop for a second. Stop, drink you a cup of coffee, come back to it. This is fun. This is fun. None of us are trying to audition for American Idol or any of that. This is fun, right? We're having a good time. And when you're practicing, especially when you're trying to learn a new technique, I repeat, and I feel like I need to say this to somebody out there. Don't feel like, man, if I can't get this in the next 5 minutes, it wasn't meant to be. Balderdash. I'm sorry to cuss at you so strong, but that is not true. I want you to think in terms of years when it comes to learning something. Like, give yourself that kind of time. Well, Nate, I don't have that. I'm just too darn old. Well, you'd be surprised. Guitar actually is going to elongate your life, and I will guarantee it, as long as you're not doing a bunch of other crazy stuff. Okay, guitar, look, give yourself some grace, give yourself some patience, allow yourself to learn how to enjoy the process. Because when you enjoy the process of learning, here's a shocker, you're actually going to learn more, and it'll actually be faster because you're not releasing cortisol and the stress hormone into your brain because you're not learning it fast enough. There's no race here. We're just learning this as we go. If you end up having to watch this video 2 or 3 times just to hear what I just said to you, it's worth it, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna walk this major scale down. Again, so it's 5, 4, 2 on the high E, and then 5, 3, 2 on the B, and then 4, 2 on the G string. So you had to think about it. So let's do this 3 ways. Let's do where I'm gonna use my middle finger for all the, what we'll call the melodic notes, which is basically the scale, and then my pick will be playing the A in between each note. And then I'll use my ring finger, same deal, pick playing A in between each note. Then I'll use like the paddle in between each note. And the idea here is for you to develop a dexterity in this hand so that you can switch on the fly in between those things. So here we go. You'll also note that my pinky, I just don't even know how you can do it without doing this. Your pinky ends up sort of posting up almost like a resting place for your finger, for your hand to hover. That's not wrong. Don't fight that feeling. So here we go. Let's do the scale using the ring finger and the pick first. So that felt a little weird once I got down to the G string, like my middle finger instinctively wanted to engage, but it's good to get your fingers to obey your will. So then now let's do the middle finger now instead of the ring finger, same sheboing. Here we go. That felt really weird, but that's good for you because I'm just teaching my fingers to bend to my will. All right, now let's get the paddle going. Ooh. So the paddle's got to move back. So you want to start, I messed up that first time, I'm going to do that again, but you got to start on the E and the B, and then the G and the B, and then the G and the D, right? So there's just some exercises to get this engaged. The real payoff is, you know, when you start playing this stuff, you can actually do these little miniature strums where you're actually like, just if I'm doing one finger A here and I'm strumming from this A, the D, and then plucking on the G and the B. And the same thing on any chord. Where I'm strumming 2 strings and then plucking on the top 2 on this D chord. My encouragement to you is just to practice this, just in little increments, just try to get it in your hands. It'll take some time. I know a lot of y'all, you're working hard. I mean, I've talked to a bunch of you. Some of you are doctors and dentists and surgeons who have really high stress jobs. Some of you are driving trucks across the country. You don't have, I mean, you're trying to keep your eyes open and hands on the wheel. And by the time you get to where you're going, you just wore out. And sometimes you just need like a little exercise, just something to do that you're like, I just want to feel like I'm just taking an inch worth of progress on this guitar. This is the kind of thing that'll help that. Just get these hybrid strokes in your hand, get comfortable with it, and you'll be surprised. It'll just start to show up in your normal playing. I hope that encourages you. Y'all are just some of the best folks ever. I love your comments. Thank you for sharing these videos. Thank you for being a part of this thing that we do every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Central Time. It's called Chords and Coffee, and guess what? We're living life the best we can with a guitar in hand. I'll see you next Saturday. I appreciate you. Have a good one. Right